Janet moment where she's going to go over a couple of things from the real estate division as well as from the Las Vegas Realtors. Janet, you're on.
Okay, first thing I need to tell you probably is if your license expires today and you're short CE credits, you still need to go online and renew your license today. Now, two things are taking place. One is that the real estate division has given you an extra 90 days from when this all started, whenever it started, March the 16th, 17th, to turn in your live CE credits. But you do have to renew and pay on time. So that's very important. Now, a couple of things that we're working on is the real estate division has now approved, I want to say live CE class, live but not in person, over a Zoom situation or a go-to-meeting situation, is now been approved by the real estate division. You'll have to log in, you'll have to register, you'll have to be there. The instructor should be able to tell if you get up and leave. You will be given your normal breaks, and then you have to be there to sign out at the end and then do an evaluation. Now, that is approved as we speak. The problem is we're not geared up for that yet. Now, I do know that a couple instructors have been going down individually or maybe in twos to the division starting today, and they are practicing with Zoom and being sure that IT has it up so that they can do a live Zoom meeting from GLVAR. It's not in place yet, but it's coming very, very soon because they're working on it today. The other thing is we have a ton of agents signed up for orientation in April. What they're going to do, those will be in a Zoom format, and they're going to break it up into, there's 155 agents, I think, and they're going to break it up into 3 meetings over 2 days. Let me just look at my notes and be sure that is correct. Yes. So, and then as soon as they get through with the orientation, then they will start, which is usually the first week in April, first Tuesday and Wednesday. It will not be, it'll be the next Tuesday and Wednesday. They're going to start with the live CE classes. However, I'm going to tell you again, if your license is expiring today, you do have to pay your fees and you do have to renew. So get online and do it. The other thing I've had some people ask about, I'm expecting my newer agents who are expecting their license to come in at any point. And I've had agents call and go, my friend wants to transfer over to Signature. How are we going to do that? Well, at this point, there is not a way because the division requires wet signatures. And there's nobody at the division at this point to receive the wet signatures. And there's nobody there checking the mail at this point. Hopefully by the beginning of next week, they will have sanitized down that building and there will be a limited staff back at work. And they're going to start with the mail portion first. But if you have any questions on that, just give any of the brokers a call and we can explain it a little more thoroughly. Because Wendy is talking, she had a phone call scheduled this afternoon with a real estate administrator to see how can we do this. We have new agents who want to sign up, new agents that want to join MLS, and we can do that. But we can't sign them up until we have a copy of their license from the division. The other thing I want you to know is GLVAR, LVR, due to the governor's restrictions about be 6 feet apart, no more than 10 congregated at a time, the staff is working every day at GLVAR. They got old habits die hard. Las Vegas Realtors. They are there every day. They're 25% staffed every day. So anything that you need help with that can be handled via phone call or an email, there is somebody in every department at the association to help you do that. Now, there's been a lot of nasty comments on Facebook about why are we still having to pay our MLS fees? And I just want to address this briefly. The board has discussed this, but here's what happens. We are charged by CoreLogic per agent in our association. We have around 15,500, and we pay a fee for them every single month. And CoreLogic is not cutting us a break on any of our fees. So that's why we're asking you to please pay your MLS fees, which are due by midnight of the 5th. And then I know this thing is now scheduled to go an additional 30 days at this point, but if it goes longer, you're going to have your key fees coming up right behind that. And at this point, Centerlock's not cutting us a break on the money that we owe them per every user per month. The other thing I want to tell you is Tom Blanchard said this in a YouTube broadcast, but if you made any money during this quarantine period, you need to make a hefty investment into RPAC because of Rocky Finstead's and Carrera Nevada's relationship with the governor. It's the only reason that you are considered essential and are able to get out there and virtually show your homes, give video tours, sign contracts by email, because initially when the first list came out of who was essential and who was not essential, realtors were left off. But only through Rocky and our lobbying efforts through Carrera Nevada and many phone calls by your state president, your local president, Tom, were we added immediately to the essential. So you need to contribute to RPAC.
Invest.
For invest for letting you be able to make a living. And that's about all I have, unless you have any questions for me.
That was less than 5 minutes. That's fantastic,
Oh
Janet.
my gosh.
I'm kidding. It wasn't.
It wasn't.
So we I did want to point out really quickly, if there are any brand new agents that are looking to join companies that have already taken their test, gotten their fingerprints, like they're ready to go, they can still submit their packages. Yeah. There will, at some point, someone will be at the real estate division to pick up the mail. So instead of just sitting around, go ahead and do that. I had an agent ask me about CE classes as well. Like, can I take CE classes? We're not set up for post-licensing as of right now through the live Zoom. But you can, I mean, for education, take the live or the Zoom CE classes. I always recommend that, even if you don't get credit for it during your first year. And for those of you who might know somebody who's looking to be in real estate, now's a great time to do the online courses.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think now is a time of people are going to start evaluating the company they're with and the support that they get. And, you know, if you hear of anyone that's looking to make a change, we'd love to speak with them. I know that we've taken countless meetings with agents who are in a transition about our company and looking to come over to Signature. So we're happy to help with those referrals. Just let any of the brokers know. Yep.
Fantastic. Thank you, Janet. We appreciate that.
You are welcome.
And then, of course, not to forget about the Nevada Association of Realtors and what you guys are doing over there. There was just recently a press conference by the governor yesterday regarding moratoriums on evictions and foreclosures. And I will tell you that people are freaking the hell out. What does this mean? What are the financial options? What, you know, are tenants going to have to pay their rent? What about landlords who have to pay their mortgage? All of those good things. I'm going to let you talk about that or whatever else you want. No, that and whatever else you may want to talk about, Chris.
Well, Janet stole a lot of my thunder, but it's all good information. Tom Blanchard, one of my local presidents, and all the other local association presidents have been doing everything they can to share the message of what's going on in the marketplace and ways to keep agents working in business, because we know how important it is that, you stay motivated and stay putting those deals together. Because if you went 30 days without production, or if we weren't allowed to conduct business, we'd all be out of business. So definitely that's forefront of everything. I've had countless discussions with my leadership team, the real estate administrator. I mean, they really are looking to do anything they can to keep us employed, to keep our business moving. So, even with the restrictions that are currently in place, if there's an issue you see, let us know and we can address it in real time. The governor yesterday at a Sunday press conference, let everyone know, along with the attorney general and the state treasurer, that they're going to do everything they can to progress the market forward, but they are going to put a moratorium on evictions. So that means right now, if you had a tenant that wasn't paying their rent, if you had someone that because of a job loss isn't able to pay their rent, you will not be able to evict them. Now, this doesn't apply to someone who has caused something distressful in the CC&Rs, they're causing an issue with the property, they're harmful to it. I mean, you could still process that eviction. He was pretty clear on that. But the whole point is that, like we said in the beginning, you need to communicate with your landlords and with your tenants to make sure, number one, they're okay. I just had a text from a tenant I've been working with, and he let me know that his job is doing well. He's going to be making his his rent payment tomorrow, and wanted us to know that, he was committed to making that happen. So we do know that if you're communicating with each other, it's much, much easier to figure these things out. This is not free rent. All they're doing is deferring payments until a later date. So at the end of this 30 days, 60 days, whatever it turns out to be, you're going to have a bill due. And so if you have a job and you're able to make your rent payment, make it. If you're a landlord and you are able to make your mortgage payment, make it. Because all they're really going to do is defer these payments to the back of your loan. Pretty much every program that we've seen rolled out doesn't make the payment go away. They know that this money is owed, but they're just trying to work with everyone to keep them in the home, to keep business progressing, and to keep the market progressing. And I think that's the goal for everybody. I also want to share with you, I received a letter from the Ombudsman's office that they're trying to work with HOAs to make sure that they're not, adding on ridiculous fines for towing. We have multiple families that are staying in a home right now that are being quarantined together, if you can imagine that. So they're parking multiple cars in front of a property. As long as it's not a fire hazard, the Ombudsman's office has asked for associations to give leniency during this time and to not process any additional fines that are unneeded. So does that mean, Todd, that you can't go out and weed your front yard? Of course you can. I mean, if they notice the weeds there from the rain, they'll probably want you to fix it. It just means that they're asking that they don't fine. The other thing is, on the evictions, they've waived all late fees. So as you remember, in the last session go around, they dropped the late fee to 5%. During this moratorium, you're not allowed to charge any late fees for a tenant not paying on time. I know there's going to be a lot more information that comes out about it, but that's all I have for right now. If you hear of anything that's causing trouble in our industry right now during this time, let us know, Janet or myself or V or Todd or any of the managers, and we can progress it forward. We pretty much have identified issues that we had. Our lobbying team's pretty amazing. We noticed a few things and it went right to the governor's office and was fixed immediately. So just let us know.
So Chris, just for clarity's sake for our agents and what they're advising to their friends and family who
Sure.
could be tenants, they're deferring the rent. They're saying you can't kick anybody out. You can't do an eviction during this specific process. But when this whole thing ends on whatever day that is, the bill's due at that time. I mean, they're not going to allow 30 or 45 or 60 days to kind of make up that rent payment. They can't evict during this time, but as soon as it goes back live, there's a good chance that you could be evicted, and you should try to make your payment.
Yeah, I think the scary part is there's no written guideline about it. I mean, the owner could say bill's due. This eviction moratorium is over. If you don't pay today, I'm going to evict you. That's why I think it's so important that you communicate now. Pretty much, if you put a plan in action with the owner and say, I'm going to make you payments on what I can afford until my job comes back, that's an agreement. If you get it in writing, it's even better. But at least you have something that you can depend on, and the owner has something they can depend on, because I think everyone's just scared right now what could happen. I think the other thing is that, the eviction process, while it may start up one day, 30 days from now, there's going to be a lot of them. And so I think the eviction process itself will get bogged down and very cluttered. So, I think a lot of people will see this. There'll always be a bad egg that takes advantage of it. They'll get weeded out. I mean, the AG's office is not messing around. Just like they said, if there's any landlords that they see taking advantage of this, they're going to make an example of them. And they really are going to go out of their way, to make sure people aren't taken advantage of. On that same respect, if you find a landlord that their bank is not honoring the foreclosure moratorium that they put out, or they're not willing to work with that landowner or that property owner, the AG's office said, please let us know and we will get on the phone with you with your bank. I've never seen them they didn't even do that in 2008. So this is a completely different dynamic. And I said it in an interview the other day, I've never seen everyone work together like this. Even in 2008, 9, and 10, we had communication, that fax machine that the bank never claimed that they had, where I sent everything. Now everything is working together. Everyone is communicating. All of the state offices are communicating. So I think that the big word to your client is communication, and wash your hands.
Fantastic.
I had a friend ask me today if we're only allowed to wash our hands, or could we shower yet?
Yeah.
So I gave him permission to shower because his wife's probably going nuts.
Oh, that's bad.
So I have a question you may not know the answer to.
There's no chance of that, Janet.
Because I know Chris, he'll talk about it. So I had an agent call me yesterday, and she's not our agent, but she said, I'm calling to ask you a broker question. I said, I'm not your broker, but here's what happened. A friend of hers, without her, bought an American West home. It was supposed to be ready in December, but then, as you know, Pulte took over American West, and Pulte kind of ground to a stop for a while, and then they had them come in and sign all new contracts, all new paperwork. Now it's supposed to close Friday, but it did not close because the buyer is a strip employee, and his employer would not verify income past April 16th. And the home builder said, sorry, you're defaulting and we're keeping your EMD. So my friend, we discussed Aaron Ford, the Attorney General, for a while, and she sent him an email informing him of the situation. So I don't know if that's like a 1 in a million case that happened, or if that's going to be kind of standard with builders who can't get income verifications and are now going to say, okay, well, we're canceling and we're keeping your EMD.
I'm not going to tell you about the situation. Here's what I will tell you. We're going to see a ton of litigation come out of this issue, right? We're already seeing earnest money disputes. We're seeing contract disputes. We're seeing random crazy crap that people tell themselves is okay. And I think that the one thing that we're going to have to do as brokers and agents is to keep sane, use common sense, right? If it doesn't make sense and it doesn't sound right, there are steps that you can take as an agent to help your client through mediation, right? So if there's an issue or dispute with the builder over the contract, the builder's not GLVR members, so they won't be required to go to GLVR mediation, but that doesn't mean I couldn't try to initiate a mediation with them. We could try to go to court over the issue if it happens later down the road. I think the only thing I'll tell everybody is to use some common sense with the thought process and don't give up. I mean, just because a builder says, well, we're going to keep your earnest money and go on down the road, that doesn't mean it's the end of the story. It doesn't mean we can't escalate it to a manager. Shelly, talk about what you're seeing in the loan guidelines as far as verification of employment and what you guys are doing.
Why are you stealing my thunder of introducing Shelly?
I was just thinking, man, he's in big trouble now.
Great segue, Janet.
What's that about?
Go, Shelly.
All right, fine, Shelly. It's time for your mortgage moment. Go ahead.
Happy Tuesday, everyone. Sorry, I've just been
5
missing
minutes.
So that has actually been near and dear to my heart, because as we're trying to close all of these loans for our month end, we have literally been chasing down supervisors and employee owners and all of this great stuff. We do have several of the casino letters that went out to all of the employers or employees stating they're now on furlough, but they're still getting paid. With respect to our buyers that have like an end date for their employment, we unfortunately, we cannot accept their income, but what we do have the ability to do is use supplemental income by way of reserves. And so what we look for reserves would be a 401k. So to your point, for your buyer specifically, if he had a 401k and we could utilize those funds to kind of supplement the income, we take it basically over a 6-month period, because that's what we're expecting that this time frame is going to be for us to rebound back. We'll use that income or that allocation as their source of income and allow that loan to close. So I know some lenders are different, so it is not for all lenders. This is something that Prosperity Lending is doing, that we will allow for reserves, and we'll pull reserves by way of the 401k, obviously their own personal checking savings, mutual fund stocks. They do want the 401k to be actually pulled. So as you know, obviously with the stock market being where it is, our last statement coming the end of last year shows really great, but now come the end of this month, right, we might see that to be cut in half if we're lucky. So with that, we're going to want them to pull that 401k out so that it is actually liquid funds. There is also an investor that will take gift funds, which we've been able to utilize as well, where the parents basically are gifting them this amount, and we're using that as reserves to close a loan, knowing that they'll have this in the event they need to pull from it while we wait basically for them to go back to work. But for employers that are paying their employees today, we just basically have to confirm 3 things. One, that they are employed, they're currently employed, so we'll do a verification right at funding, and then that their hours or their amount has not been impacted. We can get that from our employers, and that can come by way of email, can come by way of a verbal verification for us. We've kind of got the green light to go. So it's been a crazy, crazy last few weeks just with respect to verifications of employment. But I would say if you have any of our agents out there are struggling with this, please feel free to utilize this as a resource. I know I helped fund in with a different transaction because she didn't use me as a lender.
No, hold on, back that up. It wasn't that I didn't use you. It wasn't up to me. It's up to the borrower.
You're right. Yes.
And I did ask them 4 different times, like, let's go with Shelly, let's go with Shelly. But anyways, continue.
Yes. So with that though, I did help Vanina get through one, and I think another transaction, right, as well, just to, and not even in regards to verifications of employment, just in general, like how can I get past this with respect to a credit supplement, or how do I get past this with respect to verification of employment? Whatever it may be, just know that we're here as a resource. It's crazy times right now, even with regards to our mortgage rates. We haven't yet seen appraisals be an issue for us, but I do know across the country, we're doing a lot of exterior, they're doing a lot of exterior appraisals as well as drive-by appraisals, because there are some appraisers who are just not willing to go into the homes, and the sellers are not willing to let the appraisers come into the homes as well. But I hope that answers any of your questions as far as the verifications of employment. Is that good?
Yeah.
Nice job, Shelly. Nice job.
Thank you.
So I was going to say, one of the other things that people should be aware of, and especially with the lending side, is that the HOAs are also down to skeleton crews. I just recently, again, this other lender, they're doing a reverse mortgage and they were requiring a PUD questionnaire from the HOA. Well, the HOA is only open from 9 to 11. So by the time everybody else gets up, gets their coffee, and is getting that to kick in, they're done for the day. And so to get anything from them, you have to think weeks ahead of time in order to get, because they're probably overwhelmed as it is with the skeleton crew that they have and the 2 hours that they're working a day. So just, I think the best thing to do is, hey, check with the lenders, make sure that they're prepared, they have everything they need. And if they don't, what is going to come up? What can they anticipate and get to immediately, including those verifications or anything. One of the things that you helped me with was this particular lender wasn't able to get, and by the way, the 3 issues that I've had, same lender, not Shelly, somebody who's a federal lending company or whatever, a national lending company. But the issue was getting a credit card statement to show that it was 0 balance. Well, Macy's, I don't know if you guys know, they're completely shut down. There's not a single person in customer service. And so I was at my wit's end. We were trying to get the file to underwriting. I called Shelly and I was like, there's got to be a solution for this, right? And she said, yeah, just get them to do a processor cert. And I called the lender and I said, why can't you do a processor cert? Like I knew what I was talking about. And they're like, oh, yeah, we could do that. Okay, we'll do that. And I thought, oh, thank God, because that was the only way we could get the file to underwriting for approval, for final approval. So thank you for that, Shelly. And thanks for the update on the mortgage moment.
Can I say one last thing for my 6 minutes? So, which that's 4 minutes. What I would also encourage everyone is, you know, we're asking some really crazy questions about like who are your supervisors? Who do you call out sick to? I need them to email us, and all lenders are doing this today. So as we prepare for next month, we're just getting our buyers today to get that information ready for us, so it's not a mad scramble at the tail end. And all of our borrowers are going to have to do this. We're not discriminating against anyone. We're calling every single one of our employers. So if you need anything, please feel free to reach out to me.
Thanks, Shelly. We appreciate you. Thanks so much. We lost you for a hot second there, but we all got the gist of what you were saying. All right, Todd, you ready?
Yes, ma'am.
You're sitting back in your bedroom.
I'm in my
relaxing.
It's the quietest place in my house right now. So
perfect. So I wanted you to talk about, we've had several questions through Facebook, through phone calls, text messages about HOA resale packages. How long are they good for? Now what happens? What if we've ordered one? How soon do we need to order another one if the property falls out of escrow? Because we're seeing a little bit of a few cancellations here and there. So what is, in regards to HOA packages, talk about that.
So an HOA package, once it's been delivered, from the date that the seller actually receives it, it's good for 90 days, just a blanket 90 days, no matter what changes, no matter what happens in that HOA. It is 100% good for 90 days. They, in the past, what HOAs have required is if you're, 30 days out, 45 or 60 days out, they want you to get an updated version of it, which just costs money. Just another way for HOAs to get money out of it, is my opinion. So there is a state law now, and I think Chris could probably quote that. Can you tell us exactly where that lives in the
C645?
Not a $100 bill. I just know that we passed it through the session last year, that making it good for 90 days.
Yeah. Yep. So it's good for 90 days. You don't have to get a new one. The question then comes up, and there was some good discussion about this earlier. What about after the 90 days? Do you need to order another one? Can you use that one if you know that nothing's happened in the HOA for the 90 days, if the board hasn't met? And I think what it comes down to is that's really a seller's decision. If somebody was to use a 90-day, older than a 90-day resale package, you would want to make sure that you got something in writing from the seller and from the buyer, if possible, disclosing that the date that it was delivered on, and to the best of the seller's knowledge, there's nothing that's been changed, and that all parties acknowledge that it's older than that 90-day period.
I think the one thing that confuses people is a certificate of resale is not an agreement to abide by the CC&Rs or live in the CC&Rs. It's just a receipt. And so all it says is that I acknowledge that I've received these documents. And I think that I had the question earlier, if I'm an investor in a community and I don't want a package because I already live there, could they just execute the receipt? Well, I mean, they didn't really receive anything. I mean, the receipt only does its job. I've had it reverse on them where they've signed the receipt and not gotten a package, and now they owe a package that they don't have. Yeah. And I think the whole thing is it's a disclosure issue, right? You need to make sure that you put in writing the fact that the buyer does not want a package or already understands the CC&Rs and agrees to the community. They could put that in writing. They just can't waive their right by law to receive something. And I think that if you have a conversation with somebody and you explain the points of it, that's the important part. Now, we know that in real estate, everything needs to be in writing. And to disclose something, if it's not in writing, it does you no good at all. And I think so the more that you could put down on paper and their acknowledgement. The other thing is CC&Rs are recorded, right? I could go to my escrow officer right now and say, can you pull the CC&Rs, or their, not the escrow officer, I guess they'll get mad at me if they say that, but to their support group and say, can you pull the CC&Rs? I would rather give that to somebody than nothing at all, because at least it tells them the covenants that they're going to have to abide by. That work truck that they drive home every night, if they find out they can't park it in their driveway, they're going to be pissed. And I think that at least I'd want them to acknowledge those guidelines. I mean, just good rule of thumb. Todd, you were talking about, Chris Patrick, he buys his packages for each one of his clients and he gets reimbursed at closing. And you've seen that before.
Oh yeah, we've done that several times where we pay for it and then just submit the receipt to escrow, and then escrow will reimburse at close of escrow. So I don't know if you remember back in 2008, 2009, but I don't know if you remember when the homeowners Bill of Rights came out.
Mm-hmm.
It was a law that got put into place that really followed California and their homeowners Bill of Rights. And what was happening back then was lenders that had REO property or bank-owned property would write in all of their addendums and in their counters that the buyer buying the property had to order the HOA resale package and pay for it. And then, and the state, everybody felt like that wasn't right, that the seller should have to do that, I guess is how it all kind of boiled down. So homeowners Bill of Rights, which still stands, says that the seller must order an HOA resale package and must pay for it. Now, when they pay for it, that's not defined. So it could be they could pay for it out of close of escrow.
Right,
Yes.
but the contract says that they have to order it within 2 days and then give it to the buyer within 24 hours or 48, whatever it is, 1 day, 2 days, whatever, I can't remember exactly,
Receiving it.
of receiving it. Now, them having to order it isn't in NRS.
No.
It's not Nevada law. So you can talk about, I mean, we've talked about it before too. You can definitely negotiate when that packet is ordered as the listing agent on behalf of the seller, but you cannot not get it per Nevada law.
I think your point is that they've already contractually agreed when they sign the RPA.
Right.
The seller has already contractually agreed to order the package and pay for it and
Correct.
provide it to that party. I mean, that's what it says in the RPA, but you could always counter that out. That's why we put, that state law that you asked me for, it's right there next to it. The only problem with the verbiage in the RPA
I think it's above it, Chris.
Above it. It's right here. It's right. It's close. The only problem with that is, if you remember, after the Homeowner Bill of Rights came out, we actually had a change in provision because this is all we talked about in those sessions that followed 2008 was HOA restrictions and issues. And one of the things they added that it's seller or seller's representative. Now, the point behind that was a trustee, a court-appointed trustee, someone who's representing that seller or taking care of their property. But they've actually argued that that seller's representative is us. We're a hired representative of that seller. And so it's been argued many times and actually litigated a few that the agent, in the best interest of their client, should have provided the package if their client was unwilling to. But I think the whole thing is, why are we arguing over a few $100s in an HOA package? If you want the buyer to buy and the seller to sell, they need the package. And it's in your best interest to motivate them to provide it. Because if you have a buyer that you're representing and they don't get it, and they buy the home and they're pissed about something that they just found out, you're going to get sued. And your E&O coverage has a $10,000 deductible. So would you rather pay a couple $100 for a package or a $10,000 deductible?
Yeah, right? I think it's super clear. I mean, well, let's be really clear about one thing. It needs to be done, right? No matter what the law says, no matter what the contract says,
it's right.
No matter what you counter in or you counter out or you I mean, to V's point, when does it have to be ordered? Law doesn't say when it has to be ordered. The RPA says when it has to be ordered. Yep. And I know a lot of agents that don't help their sellers do the right thing when it comes to ordering the HO resale package. They'll wait till after due diligence. They'll wait for this or for that. So here's the thing about it. It has to be done. It needs to be delivered. It's the best protection for your seller. And that's who we should really care about, right? Our seller is who we're trying to protect in this transaction. It's their best protection to deliver to the buyer in a timely manner a complete resale package, not just CC&Rs. Yeah, you can get CC&Rs. Yeah, you can get all that other stuff, but the best protection is the entire package. And I agreed, Chris, it's not the HOA resale receipt is just that. It's like the RDG, right? It's you're signing that you received a copy of the residential disclosure guide, not that you agree to it or that you've read it or that you've taken it to your attorney. You're just saying, I got it. And that's what the resale receipt is. It just says you got that. So help your sellers understand it needs to be ordered. They need to get a copy to the buyer. It protects them at the highest level. It then protects you as the agent at the highest level. And then, of course, it protects the brokerage. And as long as all three parties are protected, none of us are going to go get sued and have to worry about paying our $10,000 deductible.
The only thing I want to add to that, and it's another change that happened in that same legislative cycle, is the HOA itself, right? When you order the package, how long does the HOA have to get it to you? It used to say, I think
whatever the hell they want.
Yeah, I mean, that's what basically happened. It now actually
But they charge
says,
you an arm and a leg if you want it within 20 days.
It actually says 10 calendar days, not business days, 10 calendar days.
Now
And
it does.
Now it does. And still, there are HOAs that still say it right on their front page, we have 10 business days. That's absolutely incorrect. And all you have to do is provide them with that law. And if they don't adhere to it, you can actually turn them into the ombudsman's office. And I recommend you do that. We are seeing some crazy things from associations that are out there trying to gouge the public. Not all. We just had a meeting with the Community Managers Association, and they are out to police their own industry just like we are, to make sure that the bad apples are getting in trouble for the things that they're doing. So,
well, I think it's not that they're trying to gouge the industry or gouge people. I think that it's a matter of education, right? They might not know that that's changed. They might not.
They're trying to make an extra $100.
What I want to talk about is the COVID-19 addendum as well as the notice. So 2 weeks ago, our office actually engaged our, bless you, Janet. So we called our attorney and asked him to quickly put something together. So California Association of Realtors has an addendum that they, that from what I understand, the Las Vegas Realtors almost duplicated.
Yeah.
The timelines, they duplicated, things like that. So if you're using the one in Transaction Desk, just know that that was actually created by the Las Vegas Realtors. The timelines on that one are specific to what California timelines are like. So you will have to make adjustments. Now, the one that you had, that we provided you, that was in the Facebook Agents of Signature Facebook page. I'm having a hard time. The Agents of Signature Facebook page, that particular document will allow you to put in timelines, and they're specific here for Nevada that are based off of our contract. And so that, what we've been having is a lot of discussions and a lot of conversations with agents and questions about, well, when is a good time for me to submit that? Anytime, all the time, any transaction, right? There was some discussion about, well, what if the transaction initiated before we went into the quarantine? It doesn't matter, because if something changed for the borrower that now doesn't allow them to purchase the property, whether it be the new home or whether it be, a resale home, whatever, something changed in their life, something changed in their job, and they no longer qualify, that addendum is going to help them. They can't do it because of something that happened and it was out of their control. It was out of all of our control. Yeah. The other thing that I've seen, or that we provided you, was the COVID-19 notice. Now that notice, if you've read it, and if you haven't, I'll quickly explain it. That notice, what I've seen agents do with it is actually put it right into the document section on properties that they have listed. In order to get an appointment or even to go look at the property, that has to be completed and signed by the buyer. And it states, look, we're in the midst of something that we've never seen before. People are getting sick, and they could be getting sick by visiting a house and during a showing. And so you are going to take all the proper precautions to make sure that you don't get sick. And if for whatever reason you do, it's not our fault. It's your fault. You can't sue us for it. So what I'm seeing is agents put right in the agent-to-agent remarks that COVID-19 notice must be completed from the document section and returned to the listing agent in order for you to get an appointment to see the property. I will recommend that if you are planning on doing that, you have a conversation with your seller. So I don't know if you've heard it enough here. Communication is so important during this time. Communication with the seller, communication with the other side, the agents, the landlords, the tenants. Communicate, and communicate sooner than later. So those are the two notices that I wanted to talk about. Did you guys have questions about the addendum?
No, I want to point out that if you do use it for your showings, I really do believe that you should have something in writing from the seller. I mean, explaining the fact that, I'm not going to allow people into your home unless they've executed this. Are you okay with it? Please reply to this email and let me know that that's okay. Just so that they don't come back later and accuse you of not showing their home. And I think the other thing is that, the document is not binding unless it's signed. But what it does do is it shows your buyer's intent, just like you said. but you can't enforce something that hasn't been executed.
Correct.
Right? So we see a lot of agents that have sent it over and they're telling the other party, oh, hey, now we're canceling because we have this. It doesn't work that way. And the other part of it is, why am I using it at all? Force majeure is an act of God, right? I mean, that's the clause, but we actually don't have an act of God clause in our RPA. Not that we don't believe that they don't happen, but just typical of our market. I mean, extreme heat is the only acts of God we really see here in Southern Nevada, and we all know about it. So I think the whole point is that if you were to go to court over an issue of you canceling this file, and the reason why your client feels like canceling is because of this crazy thing that has happened, would a court uphold their position? I don't know. It's not my job to litigate it. I'm not an attorney. But I think the whole thing is, like you said, V, it proves their feeling about what's going on in the marketplace and the reason why they're doing something. It also is the best use of an extension. I mean, that's the whole point of why we put it out, is to help you extend a contract that can't close today.
Correct.
Right?
So, and that was, hey, let's have again, communication. Let's talk to the sellers about what is a possibility. Let's talk to the buyers about what could be the possibility from what's happening right now. And so an extension is obviously better than a cancellation, and this will help encourage that and allow agents to have those discussions with their clients.
Well, and many of these ones that we've seen that have canceled, a day before, 2 days before, because, Shelly, you mentioned QM earlier when we were just talking, and there's loan types that have just gone away, and there's down payment assistance programs that have just gone away, like they were there on Thursday and gone on Friday, kind of thing. So
they were there Thursday morning, gone Thursday afternoon.
There you go. By 1 o'clock, their coffee had tasted and they were done. So I think it's important to understand that we don't know what's going to happen here, right? So just because it happened due to COVID-19 probably doesn't protect your buyer, it doesn't protect your seller, and you got to get stuff in writing. It's got to be signed by both parties for it to have any effect on the contractual agreement between buyer and seller. So get it signed. So V, let me ask you this question. What if I have a seller and we've gone into contract either before or during this pandemic that we're in? Would I, as the seller's agent, listing agent, would I want to send over the COVID-19 addendum to the buy side?
You're going to want to send it as the buyer. You're going to want to send it over as the buyer's agent, right? Because it protects them and their earnest deposit.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure that's to get that.
Oh, got it.
This is
Sorry. Yes, I didn't cover that. You're right.
It's not in your seller's best interest to send this addendum out. And if you represent a buyer,
it could be, though. It could be in the seller's best interest if the seller is quarantined in their house and they don't want to leave, because the seller has no out in the purchase agreement, right? So it actually has a level for the seller to cancel. Now, that's the craziest part about it. It actually, as the third line says, seller agrees to cancel this contract. Well, the seller has no cancellation provision in the RPA. If the buyer doesn't perform, then they can cancel. But you could use it that way. The problem is no buyer's agent would ever execute it and say, yeah, I want to give your seller an out. But the same argument, this crazy act of God has happened. I believe that I'm thrown into a position that I don't want to get out of. I don't want to leave my home. I want to convince this buyer to walk away. It does start the conversation, but again, it's not binding. But it's a way to put the point out of why my seller would want to cancel and what hope that they have of canceling. But I mean, it could be used that way. I just don't think it'll work out for you in the end.
You could be a seller who was buying a house and no longer qualify. And so you'd have to use it on both transactions. So ultimately, I think the most important part of this conversation is communicate and talk to a broker. If you have something that's unique, that's different than what we've talked about here, call one of us. Don't wing it. Don't try to get us involved after it's too late when you're sitting on the closing table and nobody can sign because the docs aren't there, right? I mean, don't wait for it to get that bad. Call us ahead of time and let us help you with it.
So,
okay. Anything else on that addendum or notice? Perfect. And you guys, I know that this, this is going out live, but if you have questions, as the agents here, you can write it down. You can put it into the comment section. You can call any of us in reference to any of the things that we're talking about. And then last but not least, we've seen so many questions about this lately, and so many people confused about how this works. And I'm specifically talking about the earnest money. So when you have an EMD that's sitting in escrow and you've got a cancellation for some reason and you're past all of the contingencies, due diligence, loans, CC&Rs, appraisal, all the contingencies are gone, and now there's an earnest money dispute. Chris, this will be somewhat of an open discussion between all of us. I'll let you head it.
Yeah. So first off, earnest money. Why do we even have earnest money? And my way I've always been taught is that earnest money is risk leverage, right? The idea of me putting it on the line is the fact that I, as the buyer, am going to put money up so that the seller takes their property off the market and goes through the process of a transaction with me. And I think the one thing that you need to keep in mind is that you just don't throw up any amount of earnest money. It needs to make sense. It needs to be enough on the line that the buyer isn't going to just back out of the deal because they have nothing risk. And it's not so much that the seller is going to get a windfall when your buyer cancels. So I've been a little concerned because I've seen some $5,000 and $10,000 earnest monies on $100,000, $150,000 properties.
Ouch.
That is concerning, right?
Wow.
Now, I understand that if it's in a hot market, which we are just coming out of, I mean, we were in an extremely hot market and you want to show a lot of strength on behalf of your buyer, don't do it as earnest money. You can make it an additional deposit. And those two things have differences. Earnest money cannot be moved out of escrow without buyer and seller signature. So as soon as it leaves your buyer's account, it's no longer theirs. Do not guarantee they get it back. Do not guarantee it's going to be returned because you have no control. You could say that you're going to do everything right in the contract, that you're going to execute it correctly, that you're going to notify them of timelines. You cannot guarantee the other party's signature on an earnest money release. So I want to make sure that every agent knows that you do not make guarantees in our business. We can tell you when something's going to happen. We can tell you what may happen, but I never guarantee anything. So make sure that you're not promising your buyers and sellers that they're going to get the money or the money's going to be released to them or, tomorrow everything's just going to be okay, because you don't control both parties. You only control yourself, and you don't even control your client in sometimes, which we're seeing happen right now. So make sure that you're not making false promises with EMD. The other thing is when you open escrow, you get general escrow provisions or escrow instructions. Some title companies have provisions in their escrow instructions that they will automatically release the earnest money without your signature to the other party in case of certain scenarios. So again, I don't guarantee anything, and you need to read those instructions to know what set of rules you're playing by. I was blindsided by a title company here in town that released money that was in dispute because it was in their instructions, and I haven't used that title company since. But the point is, that's why they send it out for signature ahead of time, so you know what rules you're playing by. I think the other thing is that force majeure, we've seen this COVID-19 clause, and this is what I think all of us need to interact on. If it comes to the point where we need to cancel this deal, do I just automatically give up my earnest money and let it go by the wayside? No. My job as the representative of my client is to mitigate their loss based on the terms of the contract. And so it doesn't mean that I just give something up and don't put any effort into it or don't explain the complete provisions that my clients afforded to them under the purchase agreement. Now, we know that if a buyer defaults the day of closing, probably 99% of the time the seller is owed that earnest money. But expediency to the money has a value. Am I going to be excited that I'm giving up my earnest money today of $5,000? Hell no. I'm going to be pissed off, and I'm not going to want to sign things. Todd, remember in the short sales, we'd have clients that would put earnest money on the line, and the seller would lose the home, and that buyer's money was just tied up in escrow until who knows what would happen.
Yeah, because the seller disappeared, had to move out of the house.
And so I think that the one thing I'm telling you, I'm not telling you that you have a position to hold up someone's money because that could be actionable. But what I am telling you is that the buyer seller have the opportunity to consult a professional. It may not be you, it may be one of the brokers, it may be their own attorney, but there are ways to mitigate earnest money so they don't completely lose it. We just had 2 transactions this week where the buyer would have lost all of their money if we hadn't at least pointed out the fact that there is a mediation provision. And I will tell you that there are attorneys out there in the marketplace right now, because 2 of them chimed in, that felt that if this were to go to court because of everything that's happened, and even though we don't have a force majeure clause in our contract, that a jury or a judge may not grant 100% of the earnest money to that seller. Now, the downside of that is someone would have had to pay an attorney or legal fees to get to that point, and that could cost more than the earnest money. And when we're talking about $5,000, $10,000, $8,000, no attorney is going to take your case for that. Thank God we have Dave Sanders and some of the others that will write letters for $300 or $400 or $500, but no class action attorney is going to get out of their Maserati to take your $300 check. It's
to
just
go litigate.
And litigate it. No,
Yeah.
there's no way. There's not enough money in it for them. So that's why I'm saying that, you know, communication is important. When we've conversed back and forth with these parties, and you guys talk about it, when you actually have real conversations with people and you work out things that make sense based on the fact that we're all dealing with this, people are willing to listen and they're willing to negotiate. You guys feel the same way?
Yes, 100%.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Perfect. Any other comments on EMD disputes or anything like that?
Well,
I
I
No.
think you want to point
I
this
think
out.
the sooner you get a broker involved,
Yes.
the better chance
Yep.
you have of a positive result. No one is saying that if you get a broker involved, you're going to get all your money back. I'm just saying that if you get a broker involved, you got a better chance of getting a positive outcome. Sorry about that stutter. And that's only going to make your client happy, and they may go ahead and buy with you. I mean, I've seen so many times where earnest money gets in dispute. The buyer gets mad because the buyer's agent said they would get their money back and then they didn't. And now
Yeah.
they're no longer your customer or your client. At
Yeah.
least if you can get them something, the chances of them using you again in the future is good. So get a broker involved sooner than later.
Because they know again, it's because they know that you're going to fight for them, right? So they're going to stick around because they know that you've got their best interest at heart. So good discussions. I love this. I love talking to you guys. I was telling you earlier, Shelly, you're on mute, but I heard you, I saw you, me too. Yeah. It's one of my favorite things to do because I feel like I always get a little bit smarter. We lost Janet. As I said that? No, there she is. Okay.
There she is.
And then couple of things that I wanted to ask. One question really quickly for you, Shelly.
Yeah.
You had said the 401k, they'd actually have to pull the money so it's liquid. Would there be a penalty for that? They'd have to take on, right? So probably something that they need to be.
We've seen them take it as a loan.
So then there would be no penalty.
Right.
There's interest.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, great. I wanted to clear that up. I put it down on my notes and forgot as you were talking. Okay, so a couple of things. One, the Spirit of Signature award, we still are going to be announcing that in our sales meetings. We are having sales meetings just like this. And so we would like you to submit your Spirit of Signature award nominee. I did post that link on the Agents of Signature page. Janet's going to be writing the newsletter this week, so it'll go in there as well. You can do it right online. We've gone virtual, guys, with even the Spirit of Signature Award. So please don't forget to do that. And then most importantly, let's just say you want to come and collaborate with other agents. You want to talk to your brokers. You have a question that you believe we can help you with or that somebody else could learn from. What we have been doing is we've been holding, last week, we held daily virtual office hours. And we did it for an hour and a half a day. Well, this week we've decided to mix that up a little bit because not everybody is ready at that time. So we've got 2 one-hour virtual office hours. There will always be a virtual office manager, so a broker or an office manager to help with questions and field questions as they come in. And we are doing that Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and then again at 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. So make sure that you log in. The link for Zoom is right here. I hope Beta can make that work. Ding! So the live link to join our Zoom calls will be right there. And then also, if you have any questions, you can always reach out to any one of the brokers here at Signature. And then, I mean, what else? Any things you guys want to end with? I know you guys are all crushing it. We had some amazing, and I won't steal Brandon's thunder for the weekender, but we did have some amazing closings last week. And so you guys are definitely working. You're working hard. We would love for you to come on to the virtual office hours and tell us what it is that you're doing and maybe share some of those with the other agents that are on there to help them stay busy as well during this time. Don't forget to at least check out Prospect CRM or do something in regards to your SOI. And on that, make it a great week, you guys. Thanks so much for joining us today.